All right. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Local Domination Podcast, your ultimate guide to getting local clients fast. This is your host, Doran Aldana, with another kick-ass episode for you. And this session, this episode is a real treat for you. This is with the one, the only, Shon Kokoska. He is an absolute rock star when it comes to dissecting and synthesizing the secrets for success as it relates to entrepreneurship, production, profit, lifestyle, all of the above. He's the founder and CEO of Icon Coaching, which is a very niche-specific coaching company that works in particular with real estate professionals to help them crank up commissions, dial in their production, be able to attract more clientele, better, faster, easier. And he was also the president of Keller Williams coaching program. So this guy's been around the block, not his first rodeo, got a lot of acumen as it relates to entrepreneurship and what it takes to really win in this business of attracting clientele and being able to do it profitably in a way where you actually have the lifestyle you want, and to be able to do it in a meaningful way where you have the contribution, the cash, and all that good stuff. So we're going to be talking about a topic called 9 characteristics of top performers today. 9 characteristics that separate the top dogs from all the rest. So without further ado, Shon, thanks for hanging with us today.
Doran, it's my pleasure, buddy. Thanks for having me.
Hey, likewise. My pleasure. So why don't we start off with a little bit of a background on yourself for those who are uninitiated, don't know who Shon is. Maybe a little background as to how you got into coaching, but also how you got into entrepreneurship and learning the game of being able to attract the right clientele and build a real business, a lifestyle business that allows you to not just be a slave to the office ball and chain, but really create the best life, the abundant life for yourself and your family. How did you get to that point? How did you get that expertise? I'm curious.
Well, I started in real estate sales when I was 20 years old. I looked like I was about 16. And I met a guy named Michael Gerber, who's the author of E-Myth. I flew out to California after reading the book, and I just had to learn more. It was one of those books that triggered something within inside me that caused me want to systemize everything I was doing in business. And flew out, got my E-Myth certification, and focused for the next 5 years in systemizing the real estate sales process to build a team, to not have to actually be there to make money. See, I recognized early on that if I didn't show up, if I didn't lead generate, if I didn't do all my lead follow-up, then I was just kind of stuck. I didn't make any money. So I love sitting on the beach. I really do. The only way to do that was to apply models, systems, technology, and leverage so that I could step through those 3 phases of business development as quickly as possible. Now, when I reference the 3 phases, what I'm talking about is first the I do it phase. And every entrepreneur has certainly been there where you're doing everything all by yourself, and it becomes quite challenging, and we all reach a natural ceiling of achievement, meaning you can't get 10 more minutes in the day. You can't get another hour in the day. And I got to the position that I couldn't put another client through the pipeline without applying leverage. So I stepped into the we do it phase where I found some traction, found the success, and also found talent that wanted to align with my vision. Now, the we do it phase is great, yet I think the goal of every entrepreneur is to step into the they do it phase where, again, you've leveraged those 4 key categories, which is models, systems, technology, and people to make money without having to show up, right? So we're going to dive into these 9 characteristics of what I call top performers in the industry, or better yet, icons of the industry. And I think the first characteristic, Doran, is they know what they want. And it sounds so darn simple, right? Yet, if you took the time and you had the time and you asked 1,000 different people what their definition of success was, I think you'll agree with me that you'd probably end up with about 1,000 different responses, right? Because everybody has a different definition. So I went to Webster's dictionary. I just looked up the word. And the definition of success, according to Webster, is really quite simple. And that is getting what you want. Not what somebody else wants or what somebody else thinks you should want. It's getting what you want. So whatever your current desire is, the level of productivity or whatever it is. For example, the mother whose definition of success is to be the best mother on the face of the planet, and their kids look up at her and say, Mom, you're the best mother in the world. See, that person to me is ultimately successful. And as long as you're getting what you want. So going back to that, the first characteristics of a top performer is they know what they want. Second, they know why they want it. See, I think the why is the fuel in the tank that not only gets you across the finish line, it gets you there first. We've got clarity as to why you do what you do, which really ties into the first question you asked me that I kind of accidentally deflected, quite frankly, Doran. I apologize. I got into real estate when I was 20 years old and really didn't have a why other than ego-based, make as much as I can, buy as much as I can. And my goals were all monetary, right? And that's all good and fine. Yet, because of the success, the traction that I found in real estate and, being 23 years old, closing over 100 transactions year after year, making, $100,000 commission month every other month, which was dynamic and fun. I was picked up by a lot of these speaking companies out there like Howard Brinton Seminars and iSucceed.com and iReal and National Association of Realtors. And they approached me and said, can you teach people what you're doing, how you do it? And again, ego-based. I said, well, yeah, sure. And so I found myself on the road at age 26, about 200 days per year and hitting about 150 stages per year, which was a ton, right? Yet thankfully I had the leverage, I had the models, the systems, the technology and people that enabled me to go out and give these presentations, which only helped me grow my business further through referral type business. Then in 99, I had my first child. And I got to tell you, it was the best day of my life. And I decided I didn't want to be on the road like that anymore.
Yeah, so that changes everything.
It really, truly does. And those of you who have kids, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Yet, Doran, I made the decision right then and there that I didn't want to be on the road like that anymore. I wanted to be home. I wanted to raise this beautiful little baby boy. And I looked at my resources. And quite frankly, the only thing I really knew, well, it's real estate, right? So I was more of a distraction to the team than anything else. And I thought, what are the line extensions to my current business model that make sense? So I started a mortgage company. I started a title company. I started a land development company and a new home building company. And I got to tell you, Doran, we crushed it. The idea was 6 income streams on one transaction. So I would get paid a commission because I represented my development company. When we bought the land, I would get entitlements, pulling curb gutter, water, sewer. I would sell the lots back to my building company. We'd peel off some profit there. Then we'd build the home, collect a supervision fee that exceeded our expenses. So there was more money there. Then, of course, the real estate company would list the home for sale, whether it was pre-sold or not, collect a commission. Mortgage company would finance the property, the title insurance company would provide the insurance. And dude, it worked. I mean, we crushed it. At one point, we had 5% market share on any home built above $1 million in Denver, Colorado in the early 2000s.
Wow.
And we had 16 land developments, and I was literally making millions of dollars every single month and living the life that I'd always dreamed of. Yet again, it wasn't a purpose-driven life. It was the undisciplined pursuit of more. So if you've read How the Mighty Fall and the rules associated with that book, I broke every single one of them. And ultimately, in late 2007, early 2008, we all know what happened. The market shifted. It turned on a dime, and I was 16 land developments, 130 plus homes under construction, and had buyers walking away from $250,000 earnest money deposits because they could just go down the street and buy a short sale instead. So I became a short sale expert overnight and literally lost everything in the process, dude. It was painful. And yet, there's a couple of lessons that really came from that. First, when you're at your lowest of lows, you have the most opportunity for growth. When you're at your lowest of lows, you do some soul searching. You kind of find yourself. You find your purpose. See, I was at the point of, adding up life insurance policies, thinking, would my family be okay if I weren't here? I mean, it was depressing. It was cold. It was awful. And that desperation and that depression, I found my purpose. I found my why. I thought back in my life and I said, where did I find the most fulfillment? And it was when I was teaching others, when light bulbs were going off and I discovered why I was still here. And that was to learn everything I possibly could about this industry to transfer that knowledge to others so that they could improve their production, their trajectory, their profit, to live in the houses they deserve to live in, to drive the cars they want to drive and take the vacations and spend time with loved ones as they so desire. So It's to keep people out of a desperate financial position. And that's the idea. That's the purpose, the why that really saved me. And it's why Icon is in existence today. So I surrounded myself with individuals that I considered to be the smartest people in my industry. See, success leaves clues. We all know that, right? We also recognize that you become the sum of the 5 people you associate yourself with, right? Meaning, my mother taught me at an early age. She said, think of all your friends, Shon, your 5 closest friends. Add up what you think their income is, and then divide that number by 5, and I'll bet you'll end up around $10,000 within that. Now, as I say that, Doran, don't think that I'm a snob. Don't think that I don't like hanging out with people that don't have money. I have plenty of friends that don't have money. My input is just associate yourself with people that are going to stretch your current thinking, to raise your personal financial thermostat and cause you to take different and more aggressive actions, right? So it's always been said that if you want to golf better, well, golf with better golfers, right? And that's been said forever, and it remains true today. And just focusing on surrounding yourself with the right people. So I said, who's the smartest person in real estate today? And I considered Gary Keller at the time to be the smartest individual in real estate. So reached out to Gary. I became an independent contractor, a teacher for them, and a coach to coach with people one-on-one. And when my clients are winning, buddy, that is the fuel in my tank, right? That is where I find the most fulfillment. I worked as an independent contractor for him for a couple of years, meanwhile building the real estate practice back up. Ultimately sold the real estate team to move to Austin, Texas to join Gary Keller at corporate Keller Williams Realty International. And he hired me as what he called VP of Growth. Yet within 18 months, we had 387% growth, and he promoted me to president of Keller Williams MAPS Coaching, and just exponential growth. Grew that company to be the largest coaching and training company for realtors on the face of the planet. Then we started a new company together, and that was to take our models that we had developed that transcend industry type to teach and consult and coach with all industries outside of real estate sales. And I found myself working with companies like McDonald's and Panasonic and T-Mobile, Sports Clips, Genentech, Highlight, Blackbot, a whole bunch of them that you've probably never heard of. And that small business owner, that entrepreneur, right? And just teaching them the models, the systems, we found massive traction. Yet at the same time, it didn't necessarily align with my personal vision. I was in Chicago. I was teaching a workshop for the president of the Global Services Division of McDonald's Corporation. And during the lunch break, I was sitting with him and we were talking. He said, Shon, I love these models. I love the systems. Yet you have to understand that it takes a minimum of 5 years to have any kind of a cultural impact at McDonald's. And when you think about my story, my purpose, and why I do what I do, you can sense that the wind left the sails in that moment. And all of a sudden, what I was doing became the very first job I've ever had in my life. Meaning, it turned into a grind. So in 2016, I made the very tough decision to resign as president of MAPS Business Training, to step away from the Keller Williams Corporation and start my own brand, my own coaching and consulting company, and leave that well into the 7-figure income bracket to bet on myself. And those of you that are entrepreneurs who are listening to this, you'll absolutely identify with this. It is probably the most exciting time in your life and the most terrifying time all at the same time, right?
Right.
Nevertheless, I got off on a tangent to get on your door, and I apologize. Yet they know what they want, or they know why they want it, right? So
absolutely.
They've developed their ability to determine exactly what their prospects want. And we do this through question and answer. We do this through seat of the pants experience, and we do this based on market knowledge. So developing your ability to determine what your prospects want, I think, requires practice. In fact, as I think of practice, I consider that to be a very dollar productive activity, where most people think, well, it's my playtime, so I'm going to go ahead and practice, right? Now, I think practice is actually your work. And when you're in front of a prospect, well, that's your playtime, right? In fact, I call it the 20% work, the dollar productive work, referencing Pareto's principle, the 80-20 rule. 20% of your activities in whatever industry you're in will yield at least 80% of your results. Now, if you're in a sales position or business development position, those 20% activities, it's a relatively short list, right? It's first to lead generate. If you're an entrepreneur and you want to dominate your local market, you've got to proactively lead generate every day. Now, the good news about lead generation is that it can be effectively delegated. The bad news is that you get to master it first, right? So the lead generation aspect of the business. Second would be lead follow-up, to nurture those prospects that have either self-identified or that you've identified that are not quite ready to do business with you today. To develop the models, the systems, the technology, and people to nurture those prospects through the pipeline. And that's one of the greatest challenges in the real estate sales industry today and many other industries, is that prospects have now developed the ability to self-identify way earlier in the pipeline. They might not be ready for 2 years, yet they filled out some web form on Zillow or Realtor.com, and the realtor thinks, oh, I'm excited, I got a lead, and it's not a lead at all. So today, in whatever industry you're in, there's really two distinct buckets that have been developed. The first bucket is kind of the dreaming phase, as I would call it. This prospect has self-identified, yet they're not ready to do anything. They're just dreaming about it. And then the second phase is when they get serious, right? In real estate, we call it the buying or listing phase. In your industry, it might be something totally different. Yet here's the biggest challenge, is that if we ignore them during the dreaming phase, they're going to ignore us when they get serious about doing whatever it is that they're going to do, right?
Right.
So they've developed their ability to determine what the prospect wants, the time frame associated with it, and that sort of thing. And then next, point number 4 is they've developed the models, the systems, technology, and people to fulfill the prospect's needs quickly and effectively. And they do it in such a way that it will be a benefit to the prospect and not so much to them. Point number 5, they know that there's no such thing as failure, right? Only learning experiences. I love John Maxwell's new book. Well, it's not new anymore. It's probably 2 years old by now. Yet it's sometimes you win and sometimes you learn, right? I mean, if we were in a seminar right now and I asked everybody listening to this, how many of you feel really fantastic about failing? Nobody would raise their hand. Yet I would follow up with the question, how many of you feel great about learning? And of course, everybody would learn their hand. So there is no such thing as failure. In fact, these people that are top performers, they do not approach their business model with a fix mentality. Meaning many entrepreneurs, they have a fix mentality. They fix this and put out that fire. They put out this fire, put out the next fire. Then they feel more like a firefighter than they do a professional, right? Rather, it's not about fix. It's about fix, prevent. So something happens that's a frustration. You don't blame yourself. You don't blame your people, your team, in other words. You don't blame the clients nor prospects or even vendors. You simply blame the fact that it's a lack of a system. So you fix it once and you prevent it from ever happening again.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Proactive
approach.
No doubt. Well, in that mindset, Doran, failure really doesn't exist, does it?
No, you're either winning or you're learning, as you said, right? There is no failure. There's just feedback, another opportunity to start again more intelligently, right?
Oh boy, I love that. So point number 6, they're willing to stretch. They think big. The bottom line is the bigger we think, the bigger actions we begin to take. The bigger we think, the bigger relationships we pursue. And the bigger we think, the bigger habits we begin to possess. I think that's critical thinking, because F.M. Alexander said that people don't decide their future, they decide their habits. And their habits decide their future. And that's a very profound statement.
Can you say that again?
People do not decide their future. They decide their habits, and their habits decide their future. Now, let me talk about habits just for a minute, because I've done a ton of research around this. In fact, I collaborated with Gary Keller in the writing of The One Thing, and we studied a gal named Megan Oaten out of the University College of London in Australia, as well as Charles Duhigg, the author of The Power of Habit. And Megan's research debunks the old theory that I don't even know who came up with it. I think it was Napoleon Hill who said it takes 21 days to form a habit. And many of us bought into that old thought process. Yet Megan's research suggests that that's not even a third of the time required to own the habit. In fact, it takes on average 66 days. Now, on the low end in her studies, it was 18 days, depending on the individual. And on the outside, it was 254 days to own the habit. And the 66 days represents the average of all of her groups. Yet, let's face it, most people, they'll set goals consciously. They'll build business plans consciously, and yet they form habits subconsciously.
Mm-hmm.
So Doran, something happens, right? They get a reaction, or they have a reaction, and they get a result based on the reaction. Now, by the time we're 20 years old, our mind has had so many exposures, we're almost on autopilot. So the next time that something happens, well, we have the same reaction. And we brought that reaction to the point of automaticity. And therefore, we get the same result. Now, Albert Einstein gave us his definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different or better result. Gang, in order to get better, we've got to get to different, right? So I believe that part of the characteristic of these top performers is that they've brought habit formation to the point of consciousness. Recognize the activities that are worth building habits around, and then applying discipline until you brought that activity to the point of automaticity. In fact, Doran, if you don't mind, I'd like to just digress for just a moment and share one of the greatest ahas I've ever had.
Please do.
I was really fortunate to get this awareness at a very early age. In fact, I was just 17. Now, my wife and I, we met in the 7th grade. We started dating when we were 16, and we're 17 years old at this point in our life, and we decided we're going to go see a movie. We invited her older sister. She's 4 years older than she is, and her sister's new boyfriend. I hadn't met this guy yet, and I agreed to drive. So I pulled up to pick them up, and I got to tell you, this dude came out of the house, and this guy was built, man. I mean, he had muscles on muscles. He looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger, for Christ's sake. Now,
Jacked.
Yeah, exactly. I just shredded, right? And I'm 17 years old. I want to look like this guy. So I got to know him, right? And I said, his name's Paul. And I said, hey, Paul, how often do you go to the gym? He said, well, every day. I said, every day? I said, yeah, every day. I said, well, how long do you spend at the gym? He said, well, at least 2 hours, sometimes longer. I said, seriously, Paul, 2 hours every day? How do you find, I can't remember the exact words yet. Something like, how do you find the motivation? How do you find the discipline to go every day for 2 hours? Man, I'm having a hard time getting there once, twice a week, let alone every day. And he looked at me like I was crazy, Doran. And this was the aha. He said, Shon, it's just something I do. So you get the point, right? I mean, it's part of Paul's self-image. It's part of his paradigm, if you will.
Right.
Expectation that he holds of himself. This is who I am. This is what I do.
His identity.
Yeah, and Paul gets to look the way Paul looks, right?
Right.
So my question to everybody listening to this is, how about you? What is that activity that if you just brought it to the point of automaticity, that you would just blow it up, you would crush it, right?
And it's not going to be paper pushing. I promise you that. It will not be paper pushing. It will not be the minutia. It will not be the trivial many. It will be the vital few.
That's exactly right. And, I dove into started into the 20% job description. Let me finish that thought. So first, it's about lead generation. Second, it's about lead follow-up and nurturing the prospects. Third, it's about going on appointments or having consultations or whatever it is that you do, right? Those appointments, whatever that is for your industry. Next, it would be negotiating your contracts or getting your proposal signed or whatever that looks like. And then finally, number 5 is that you practice your skill. And I don't care at what level you are, practice isn't something you did, it's something you should do on a consistent, repetitive basis to really sharpen your ability to influence others to do business with you.
So amen, brother.
That's the 5.
And we don't seek perfection, we seek progress, and you don't get progress without practice. So I'm with you on that.
That's right. One of my favorite quotes is that amateurs practice till they get it right. Professionals practice till they can't get it wrong, right?
Well, I like that. I like that. That's the sign of the quintessential professional. They do it in their sleep and they make it look easy.
That they do. There's no doubt about it. So bottom line is spontaneity is a conditioned reflex, right? Meaning condition yourself to be spontaneous in the moment to handle those client objections in a way that you get what you want when you want it. And the only way you're going to do that is through practice. Now, it's not just about repetition, though, is it, Doran? It's really about evaluated repetition. In the book, A Matters, John Maxwell says that the archer that misses the target turns and looks for fault within him or herself. Meaning, guys, it's never the bullseye's fault if we miss the target. And you know as well as I do, if you're flinging arrows toward a target and you miss one to the left, well, of course, the next time you're going to evaluate that experience and aim a little bit further right if you're smart. Now, to put this in context, it's kind of like the archer who's flinging arrows toward the target, missing every single time, who thinks they're improving because they're doing it all the time. That's insanity, right? So it's about evaluating your repetition in the process. So going on to our next point, Doran, point number 7 is they make a commitment. They make a commitment to themselves first, then to everybody else around them. They're willing to be transparent. They share their goals with people, especially those people that it's going to help them increase their accountability. Telling that one person who wants to see you fail or doesn't think you can accomplish it. I don't know about you, Doran, yet that's really all the fuel I need in my tank is for somebody to, you won't be able to do that. Right?
You said what? You said I can't do it. Now you just set me up to prove you wrong.
That's right. It's
Come
like
hell or freaking high water, baby. I'm going to prove you wrong.
It's like hitting the nitrous button, right? When just increases the horsepower big time.
That's right. It reminds me of that quote. It's something like, don't talk about something you can't do while other people are already doing it. Right? I'm completely butchering it, but it's like something like you shouldn't be saying how you can't do something while other people are already doing it. I'm totally butchering it, but you probably would recollect the quote. It's something like that.
I don't know that one yet.
If I recollected it properly, you would probably remember it. I just butchered it.
Right. But I think that's one of the steps in overcoming limiting beliefs, because a lot of people think, well, I can't do that. Right. And so anytime somebody says, I can't do that, I just ask them, is it true that you can't do that? And they might actually be so rooted in that limiting belief that they say, yes, that is absolutely true. I can't do it. And I say, is that 100% true?
Right.
No, guys, nothing is 100% true. And then I follow up with the question, are there others in this world that are doing what we're talking about that you can't do? Well, yeah. So if them, why not you? Now, let's restate the limiting belief. What is it? Well, I can't blank, whatever it is. And I say, what's the exact opposite of the I can't statement? Well, it's obviously I can do that. And then the next question is, what if that were true? And then I follow through with, who would you be without this limiting belief? That belief that has been rooted so deeply within your conscious and subconscious that tells you you can't do it. Who would you be without that? And what if that were true?
Wow.
So challenging our limiting beliefs, and gang, we all have them, I think is a basic fundamental of extraordinary success. Now, point number 8 is they're willing to do whatever it takes.
Is this 8 or 9?
That's number 8.
Okay.
They're willing to do whatever it takes. W-E-I-T. So they're willing to do WIT, right? W-E-I-T. Whatever it takes. They'll show up early. They'll stay late. They'll work weekends. They'll do whatever it takes to accomplish their expectations and goals. Okay. Point number 9. Our 9 characteristics.
By the way, before you move on to number 9, number 8, they're willing to do it, whatever it takes. I call that defiant resolve.
Tell me more about
Defiant resolve. Whatever the resistance, whatever the turbulence, whatever the setback, whatever the disappointment, whatever the friction points, they have defiant resolve that they will do whatever it takes to win. Come hell or high water, they will find a way to win. As Les Brown would say, it ain't over until you win. So I'll go through it. I'll go around it. I'll go under it, whatever it takes. That's defiant resolve. And that's what it takes to win.
No doubt about it. I think about, as you were talking about that, I was thinking about Chuck Yeager. Back in 1945, the United States set their sights on achieving what was perceived to be impossible, to fly faster than the speed of sound, right? And so they set October 14th, 1947 as their target date to accomplish this endeavor. They hired engineers, designers, aviation experts, and Bell Aircraft Corporation to build the X-1 jet. Now, if you could picture this thing, it was the tiniest little fuselage, and they crammed the largest jet engine that they could possibly fit into this thing. And of course, this 24-year-old pilot named Chuck Yeager is a big part of this. Yet because of the design of the plane, they couldn't fit enough fuel into the plane to have it take off, get up to altitude, break through the barrier, and then come safely back down to Earth. So ultimately what they did is they strapped it to the bottom of a B-29 bomber to take off and get it up to altitude. Now, 2 days before the mission, Chuck Yeager's out riding his horse. He gets bucked off and he falls down, lands on a rock and cracks 2 of his ribs. Now, when I think of commitment, being willing to do whatever it takes, I think about Chuck Yeager. I think about this story. Now, if Chuck had told anybody that he broke his ribs, what would have happened?
They would have said, sorry, Chuck, you're going to have to leave this for another day. It ain't happening. We're not going to put you at risk.
No doubt. They would have replaced him with the second pilot, right? I'm sure they had a pecking order. So he didn't tell anybody. Gang, that's commitment to me. In fact, what he did is he took the end of a broom handle. He had to saw off about a 30-inch section of this broom handle, and he tucked it up into his flight suit, in the arm of his flight suit. Because of the cracked ribs, he couldn't reach his arm up to grab the hatch cover and close it and strap and lock it down in place. So what he did is he used his other arm, his other hand, and wedged in this little broomstick and pulled the cockpit door closed.
That's awesome.
To me,
that's defiant resolve right there.
So you can imagine that radio crews, media crews, and all kinds of spectators showed up for this event. And they had these bleachers, and they had these speakers that are announcing the sound over the speakers from the cockpit that Chuck's in. And so they release it from the bottom of the V-29, and he just he shot away from that V-29 like a rock out of a slingshot, right? And he's announcing his speed to the ground crew below, and he starts at like 500, 550, 600, 620, 630, 650, and then there's a pause, and he says, guys, it's getting really shaky up here. The glass gauges are starting to break. What should I do? And you think about this. What do you think his team told him to do?
That's a good question. I do not know. You tell me.
The question for the listeners is, what would you do? Would you pull back, recognizing that several pilots had died attempting to do this before you? I mean, that would be a terrifying thought, right? I mean, it's like bumpy, it's shaky, and the gauges actually start to crack and break. Well, his team said, trust in the plane. It's been built to do this. Trust in your team, right? And push down on the accelerator, the thrusters, right? So with a deep breath, Chuck pushes down on the thruster, and again, starts announcing his speed, 650, 660, 670, and then whoosh, just like radio silence. And then they heard this sound that had never been heard before. It was this boom. I mean, it just shook the earth, right?
They broke the sound barrier.
Yeah, and one of the engineers turns to the other and says, well, it sounds like Chuck bought the farm, right? His wife Gladys falls to her knees. She's bawling her eyes out. And then they hear over the loudspeaker a couple of moments later, 700, 710, 750, right? Chuck had flown, he had broken through the sound barrier, and he flew beyond Mach 1 for 7 minutes. Now on his way back down to the ground, he's doing aileron rolls and showing off for the crowd, and just amazing. Yet here's, I think, the lesson behind Chuck's story. First, it's about making a commitment. Second, recognizing that there's going to be some rough spots, right? It's going to feel like your business is cracking apart. Yet one thing I know is that when we have a breakdown, or when we're close to a breakdown, we're just short of a breakthrough. Personally, with my clients, we celebrate our breakdowns because we know that a breakthrough is always following a breakdown. You follow me?
Absolutely. Breakdown to breakthrough. I love that line.
And on the other side of the barrier, the characteristics of the flight were smooth. They were fluid. It's like he was flying 200 miles an hour, not 800 miles an hour. You follow me? On the other side of whatever struggles you're going through, it's smooth, it's fluid, and every level of success brings its own bag of challenges. What I'm talking about here is what I call the what, how, and who paradox. See, the combination of what you do, how you do it, and who you do it with, that got you to your current level of success. Now, most of us, we want more, right? And we have to recognize that combination of what, how, and who that got us here doesn't automatically transform into a better combination of what, how, and who that gets us to our next level of success. Doran, that's why you hired Russ Ruffino, right?
Absolutely.
As a consultant, as a coach, to guide you, to direct you, to help you. I think you said he almost quadrupled your business in the process, right?
Absolutely.
See, a lot of times, guys, when we're stuck in the bottle of our business, it's really hard to read the label on the outside of the bottle, right?
True story.
That's what a great consultant and coach will do. They'll align with you. They'll walk the path with you, right?
Absolutely.
So I know we're getting short on time. So getting back to the 9 characteristics of a high performer. The 9th characteristic is they have a plan and they're coachable. They have a plan and they're coachable.
And hopefully it's not reinventing the wheel plan. Hopefully it's not throwing yogurt at the fan plan. Hopefully it's not doing it the hard way plan, but a proven plan. And then they're coachable with the proven plan, right?
Absolutely. So what I mean by coachable is that they're teachable. They're not so stuck in their mindset of their current model that they're willing to change. As I said earlier, in order to get to better, a lot of times we have to get to different, right? So they have a plan and they're coachable. And then, as a bonus, the 10th characteristic of the 9 characteristics of a top performer is, Doran, they always go the extra mile. They give you a little bit more than you ever expected, just like I just did. I want to give you 10 when I told you I was going to give you 9, right? They always go a little bit more.
I love that. There are no accidents. There's purposeful intention in the 10 out of the 9 characteristics of success. I love that. So for the benefit of our listeners, perhaps you could give us a quick recap on those 10, just in case people missed it first time around.
You bet. So the first is they know what they want. Absolute and massive clarity. They know what they want. Yet sadly, I see that a lot of people take an average approach on identifying what they want, and even worse, an average approach on how they're going to get it. Point number 2, they know why they want it. What is the compelling reason that gets you out of bed every single day? What is the compelling reason that makes your job not feel like a job, right? Point number 3, they've developed their ability to determine exactly what their prospects want. Then it's about leverage. They've developed the models, systems, technology, and people to fulfill their prospects' needs quickly and effectively. Point number 5 is they know that there's no such thing as failure. They've adopted a fix, prevent mentality. And in so doing, what they're really doing is systemizing their operation. Now, I give this talk on systems after getting my certification with Michael Gerber in the E-Myth. And oftentimes after that seminar, people will approach me and say, okay, what systems should I focus on? Now, it's a difficult question because it's different for every single person in that room, right? So my input to you all is to identify first your key frustrations, recognizing that it's not you, it's not your people, it's not your clients, your prospects, or vendors. It's merely the lack of a system. And that keeps you out of victimhood. So, 3 easy ways to spot a victim, right? They blame others for their circumstance. They complain about everything and then they justify their actions.
Right.
See, right now, I'll bet you could all picture somebody in your mind that complains all the time. I mean, that fast, you get a picture in your mind of somebody that you know that complains all the time. Let me ask, is their life awesome?
Far from it.
Yeah, far from it. And they say, well, of course I complain. Look at all this junk in my life. And I say, well, I think you've actually got that backward. I think you've got all the junk in your life because you complain, right? I mean,
that's the surest way. That's the surest way to not only be unhappy, not only be aware of all the crap in your life, but to become a crap magnet where you're constantly attracting more crap in your life to complain about.
Right. And it's been proven in physics that like energy attracts like energy, right? Focus on crap, get crap. I love
Absolutely. Yeah. Surest way to become a crap magnet, if that's what you want to do.
No doubt. So they know that there's no such thing as failure was number 5. Number 6, they're willing to stretch, to think big, to set wildly audacious goals, right? They make a commitment to themselves, to the people in their organization. They're willing to be held accountable to the accomplishment of what they want. Point number 8, they're willing to do WIT, W-E-I-T, right? Whatever it takes. Point number 9, they have a plan. They're coachable. Point number 10, they always go the extra mile. So based on all of that, I've got a couple of questions for everybody for you to ponder. First, do you know what you want with absolute clarity? Second, do you know why you want it? Number third, why are you listening to this? Mm-hmm. What did you expect to gain from this? To set your intention to really be able to pick out what it is that you're after. And then what would you expect to gain by continuing to listen to Dominate Your Market podcast? So just let your intention be known. See, when you do that, what your mind does, it upgrades that to an important category, right? And we learned in neurolinguistic programming that we have 2 million bits of information hitting our mind every second of every day, yet we only have the ability to process just 134 bits of information. So think of all the information that we're not currently processing because we failed to elevate it to an intentional level. So we have a list of what I call icon maxims. One of my favorites is dream believer or dream buyer, you choose. The dream believers are always in abundance, yet dream buyers are rare. So think about this. Every dream that you have, it comes with a price tag. And the question I have for you is, are you willing to pay the price to obtain the dream? I was talking with my son, who's now a freshman at Baylor University the other day, and he said, this college stuff is hard. And I had the same talk with him. I said, buddy, you can be a dream believer or a dream buyer. It's your choice. Now, the price tag on your dream might consist of you engaging in a tutor, might consist of you putting in an extra couple of hours every single night in studying for that upcoming exam. The price could also be the things you're not able to do, like jump on Xbox and play Fortnite until 2 o'clock in the morning. You follow me? Right. So whatever the price is, are you willing to pay it? See, everything we want, gang, it's uphill. There's no doubt about it. It's uphill, and you're going to have to push yourself in order to accomplish it. Yet what I find is a lot of people, they have uphill dreams with downhill habits.
It's like everyone wants to be a champion. Very few people are willing to pay the price to become a champion. Most people want the champion level result with champ level commitments and champ level routines and champ level habits. And they wonder why it ain't panning out so well. So you've been speaking to that through the whole time we've been together, is you've been weaving brilliantly the distinctions, the nuances, the principles required to really up-level our thinking, up-level our emotions, up-level our commitment, up-level our mindset, and up-level our hustle, so that instead of just toiling and getting a chump level stretch and a chump level result, we step up to the champion level stretch, the champion level routines, the champion level mindset, the champion level hustle, the champion level mentorship, the champion level plan that gets us to that champion level breakthrough result. So, dude, I don't know about anyone else listening, but I've been totally, absolutely jacked, juiced, and fired up with what you've been sharing with us. I got a full page of notes just scratched all over the place with bombshells of brilliance. So thank you from the bottom of my heart on behalf of our audience for showing up and bringing your best, brother. This has been awesome.
Doran, it's my absolute pleasure. I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation, and you're a great interview host. I'll tell you that much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. So people who are listening to this, I know there's going to be people that are saying, man, this was so dang good. Hook me up with more. If you got more in store, hook me up. So how can people get more of what you got, Shon? How can people circle back and connect with you?
Well, I'd say my input would be, I think everybody listening to this, you need to engage in some level of accountability. I think that's one of the biggest challenges in an entrepreneur, right? I mean, we want all the freedom, we want all the flexibility, yet we struggle with ways to be accountable to doing the things that are going to help us get us what we want when we want it. So, you know, at a minimum, engage with what I call an accountability buddy, somebody who can help you through that process, right? Perhaps at a higher level, it could be like a mentor, somebody who's been there and done that, somebody that can guide and direct you. And I think at the highest level, it would be a consultant or coach. So I mean, all great performers have coaches. Right?
Absolutely.
You think about like Phil Mickelson, one of the best golfers on the face of the planet, or Rory McIlroy, or Tiger Woods for that matter. They all have coaches, right? And so nevertheless, I think coaching is the one thing that could be the catalyst to explosive growth for you and your organization. So if you want to reach out to me and have a discussion around that, all you have to do is go to my website. It's iconcoachingrE.com. Icon Coaching, R like Romeo, E like Echo.com. Click on the complimentary business assessment. What our group of consultants will do is they'll walk you through 10 points of business development, leadership, and productivity, and have you rate yourself and your organization, because I believe that prescription before diagnosis is really malpractice. I want to know, is your current, are the gaps in your model something that we can aggressively coach you to bridge? And if the answer to that is yes, well, then we can take the next step and talk about what it might look like to engage an Icon consultant. And by the way, our consultants have been vetted to the moon and back. For example, John Maxwell, my coach, his past president, his name is David Hoyt, happens to be one of our consultants and coaches here at Icon. As well as if you're in the real estate industry, every one of our coaches has had to have sold at least 75 homes per year for the last 2 years in a prospecting-based business. So it can't be REO and it can't be marketing-based. It's got to be prospecting-based. So these guys have all crushed it. They've all built successful organizations, and I know we can help you get to that next level of success.
Well, anybody who's listening who's a real estate agent who has even 2 brain cells to rub together and an ounce of ambition needs to get on that website right here, right now, iconcoaching.re. And if you don't know, now you know, iconcoaching.re. Get with Shon, get with his peeps.
Okay, iconcoachingrE.com.
Oh, see, that's why I'm here, to make sure that I butcher it so no one else does. Good so job. It's iconcoachingrE.com. I knew as I was saying, I was like, it's kind of missing that .com flavor. So I'm glad you set me straight on that one. Right on. Well, it's been a brilliant interview. Thank you so much, Shon, for your generosity, for your heart to serve. I love that you have a passion to create breakthroughs in people's lives. I share that passion with you. So you're definitely a brother from another mother in that respect. Appreciate you and definitely respect everything you're doing. And I hope people will get with you, because I know you got a whole lot more. This is just the tip of the iceberg. We're just scratching the surface of the surface here. So you guys get with Shon at iconcoachingrE.com, because there's a whole lot more there that he can give you guys. So thanks again, Shon. And that's all we got for today, my friends. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Local Domination Podcast, your ultimate guide to getting local clients fast. So if tips galore that help you soar is what you adore, know this, we got more in store. Remember, nothing happens without implementation. So in the meantime, in between time, go forth, engage. It's time for Operation Domination.